Good morning, comic book fans. Welcome back to Comics 5 Minutes. I'm your ever-loving host, Shorty, and today, not just because it's got an amazing cover, but seriously, have you seen this cover? I'm going to review the new Mr. Miracle. My reason for reviewing this quite early on, although it's certainly not the biggest release of the week, is simply the fact the last Mr. Miracle I read was a Tom King thing, and I really loved it, and I was curious how it was going to play out after that. I don't want to spoil the Tom King thing if you've not read it, but it ends in a very ambiguous way, and I was kind of curious what was going to happen to Scott Free and Big Barda and all such things. But this is not the same Mr. Miracle. This is not Scott Free. This is, sorry, I've had to put the name of people here because I keep forgetting. There's three. This is Shiloh Norman. Sorry, let me bring back the tab after. Sorry about that bad videoing there. Yeah, it's Shiloh Norman. And to be honest, I had to do a little bit of reading to kind of put him into context of the various Mr. Miracles there have been. I know there's been more than one, but as somebody who hasn't really read much of the New Gods at all, I think it's worth just getting myself a bit more familiar with it, so stuff would have some kind of context. And with that context, it's a brilliant comic book. Genuinely has thoroughly enjoyed reading it. There's a lot of things I do like about it. I'll start by talking about the artwork first. Because when we're dealing with nice big set pieces on like an almost sci-fi-esque kind of level, it looks absolutely beautiful. And when we have a more normal two people going for an evening out, it still looks absolutely great. It's got a brilliant level of detail, maybe a touch more lens flare that I like, but the colouring is really, really good. It doesn't particularly play with form too much. It's quite a traditional layout. Yeah, it's not like just a straight panel grid, but it reads perfectly fine, reads easy, in fact, which is kind of nice. Because we are dealing with some kind of like high concept sci-fi stuff going on within it, which is cool. But it's the writing which is the main focus for me, because it does a few things that I wasn't expecting it to do, and it does them all really quite well. For a start, when we are dealing with Mr. Miracle with Shiloh, I'm just checking if I've got their name again. Shiloh Brown, so Shiloh Norman and Thaddeus Brown. I've got to remember these names in my head. But when it's Shiloh, with the current political climate, it can be kind of easy to just hand wave an awful lot of what's going on for African Americans. But it doesn't ignore anything. It actually uses some quite prominent imagery, and there's arguments between different ethnic groups about how representation matters and being true to yourself, and why somebody might want to avoid outing themselves instead of wearing a mask. And these are all really well-made points. There is no like shorthand for anything. They get to the grips, which is very good. Sorry, I've forgotten the writer's name here. I did look into this one. Easton is a fantastic writer, and he really, really gets to the crux of a lot of these issues. But he also managed to do something else which surprised me, which is basically making Shiloh not that nice or not that likable of a person. He does this in not particularly subtle ways. He's very protective of his brand. He's very protective of the money he makes. He sees that like as a sign of his success rather than anything else. Him going off and being a hero is something he does so he can protect his brand interest within certain demographics. Not the most honourable of people in the world. And also when it comes to his romantic life, he basically gets the girl I was going to date with to sign an NDA. He has a few little moments of, I don't know, probably unconscious misogyny, just in the way he phrases sentences and stuff like that. And when he's actually on a date, he's a boring arsehole. And apologies for swearing there, by the way, but it's pretty much the only way I could describe him. But he's not a bad person, and that in itself is worth taking some time to pay attention to. Basically, there's been a lot of, well, not a lot, there's been some criticism recently of Marvel Comics creating villains who have genuine social political complaints, but basically phrasing everything they do in terms of them being villains rather than actually trying to elicit change. And it's nice that DC have kind of taken a different viewpoint on that one, because if your attempts to make positive changes are seen as criminal acts, then it's kind of hard to maintain a happy, sunny demeanor. That doesn't necessarily mean you're going to go full villain and start blowing up buildings and the like, but it also means that your viewpoints on success might be different. It means the way you handle yourself in public are going to be very, very different indeed, and what gets you angry and how that anger comes across. And yes, very much aware that they do play a little bit with the angry black man trope here. It's all handled in a way that makes him, rather than just the angry black man, which a lot of people would see, it makes him into actually quite an interesting character. He has a few extra layers to him, and they all kind of interconnect in real interesting ways. They play off each other fantastically. So yeah, even though maybe I wouldn't want to go out for a drink with the guy the way he acts in this comic book, I at least can see that there's more to him than the outside viewpoint that he puts out. And I like to think that the rest of the comic book's going to have a chance to explore that quite nicely. But then there's also the big thing. It's a superhero comic book, and something crazy happens at the end, and now it's going to be a fight for his life. Brilliant. I mean, the fact that you handle all those at the same time, absolutely stellar work, thoroughly enjoyable, and I can't wait to read the next issue. That's it from me, though, today. I'll be back tomorrow. Take it easy. Stay safe. Bye.